Hi guys! Today I'm going to do a video on dividing fractions, which is a tip that you guys are working on this week. But before I start on the video, I want to talk about things that we learned in class when we were talking about how to divide fractions. So, when dividing fractions, you need to remember that the first number in your expression is the total. The first number that you see in the expression or in the equation will always be your total. Now, if your total is a fraction, your answer will also be a fraction. If your total is a whole number, then your answer will be a whole number. And the 3 steps to divide fractions are, and if you remember the hand moves, you can do them as I'm saying it. Keep it, change it, flip it, or keep, change, flip. Now, we're going to start off with dividing unit fractions by whole numbers. And this is the example that we're going to use to work it out. So 1/3 divided by 3. So our example is 1/3 divided by 3. So things I know about the expression. So one thing I know about this expression is that my total is 1/3 because that's my first number. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay. I am dividing my total, 1/3, okay, into 3 equal pieces. So here, since I started with a fraction, I know that my answer is going to be a fraction. So the last thing I know about this expression is my answer will be a fraction. Okay, so now that I know that my total is 1/3, I am dividing this 1/3 into 3 equal pieces. And I know that my answer is going to be a fraction. I'm going to start first with my model. So this rectangle, I'm going to divide into 3 equal pieces. Because since my total is 1/3, my denominator is 3. So that means that I need to divide this into 3 equal parts. So I'm going to divide this rectangle into 3 equal pieces. Okay? So here I have 1/3, 2/3, and all together I have 3/3, or 1 whole, or 3/3. Now, what I'm going to do to this 1/3 right here is I'm going to divide it into 3 pieces. So I'm going to move this, see if I can. Alrighty. So I'm going to divide this model into 3. So now I divide it into 1, 2, 3 pieces. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to count the total number of parts that I have now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 total pieces. So I'm going to, right here, I have 9. Now, that means that when I divide this 1/3 into 3 pieces, each person is going to get 1 out of the 9 pieces, or 1/9. So my answer is going to be 1/9. Okay. So 1/9. Now that is using the picture model. Now we're going to solve this problem using the algorithm. This is where we're going to use our 3 steps of keep it, change it, and flip it. But before we can keep, change, and flip, there's something that we have to do to our expression of 1/3 divided by 3. So the 1/3 stays the same. And now, what do we do to this 3, this whole number? Okay, we have to put it over a 1 in order to turn it into a fraction. So the 3 is going to become 3 over 1. So now this is my new expression, 1/3 divided by 3 over 1. Oh, what happened to my picture? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, now since I have my new expression, I'm going to be able to keep it, change it, and flip it. If I'm keeping this fraction, I'm just going to leave it the same. So I still have 1/3. What do I change my division sign into, guys? Alrighty, you guys are correct. We change it into a multiplication sign. So I'm going to put the multiplication sign. And now my last step is to flip. So this 3 over 1 becomes 1/3. So now I am ready to multiply. And I'm actually going to change this so it can be the same. Alrighty. So now I already did my 3 steps of keep it, change it, and flip it. So I am left with 1/3 times 1/3. And that gives me okay, I hope you had a couple of seconds to think about it. Now we're going to work it out together. So I need to multiply across. So 1 times 1 is the same thing as 1. And 3 times 3 is the same thing as 9, or is 9. So my answer will be 1/9. So 1/3 times 1/3 equals to 1/9. So as you see in our algorithm, when we did our keep it, change it, flip it, we got the same answer as when we did our model, when we divided this 1/3 into 3 pieces using a model. So now we're going to do an example with dividing whole numbers by unit fractions. And our expression example will be 5 divided by 1/2. So my expression is 5 divided by 1/2. So things I know about the expression. Well, I know that my total is 5. I am dividing my total, which is 5, into 1/2. Make this a little bigger. Oops. And last but not least, I know that my total is a whole number, so that tells me that my answer will be a whole number. So now that I already know this about my expression, I'm going to start with my area model or my picture model. So my total is 5, so I need 5 squares. So that's my first square. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's my total, 5. So let's pretend that Miss Trejo has 5 chocolate bars. And she wants to divide them into halves or into 1/2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come and divide this, well, 1 by 1 into half. That is not straight. Let me see, guys. Hold on. Okay. There we go. Alrighty, so I divided my first model or my first chocolate bar in half. And I'm going to do the same for all of the rest of the pieces. Okay, and the last one. So now, my 5 chocolate bars, or my 5 pieces, I've divided into halves, or into 1/2. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count the total pieces that I have now. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 pieces. So remember, if my total was a whole number, that means that my answer is a whole number as well. So my answer is going to be 10, because that is the amount of pieces that I am left with. Now we're going to use the algorithm in order to solve it as well. So my expression is 5 divided by 1/2. So before I even do anything, before I even follow my keep, change, and flip steps, I need to do something to this whole number. I need to turn it into a fraction. So the 5 becomes 5 over 1. So 5 over 1 divided by 1/2. That stays the same. Okay. So that's how my expression should look like now. 5 over 1 divided by 1/2. So if I'm keeping my first number or fraction, gonna stay as 5 over 1. I'm changing my division sign into a multiplication sign. And, oops, my second fraction, I'm going to flip. So it's going to become 2 over 1. So now I'm just going to multiply across. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. So let me copy this. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. And 1 times 1 is 1. And now we know that any number over 1 is a whole number. So the whole number in this case is 10. So my answer was 10 over 1 when I multiplied across. But I know that any number over 1 is the same thing as a whole number. So my answer is 10. 10 wholes. Alrighty, I'm going to delete this. So now, don't forget that the first number in your expression is the total. If you start with a fraction, you will always end with a fraction. If you start with a whole number, guys, you will always end with a whole number. And your 3 steps to dividing fractions: keep, change, flip.